Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following. Indiana University's Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, presenting Security Matters with tips for improving online security in 3 minutes or less. Main Source Bank, headquartered in Greensburg, Indiana, offering products and services to fit every stage of life. More information at mainsourcebank.com. Main Source, life needs a great bank. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Smithville Communications, serving Southern Indiana with high-speed fiber gigabit internet. Smithville Fiber Gigabit Technology. Tap the power.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. The completion of I-69 in Indiana relies on what officials are calling an innovative idea. There's no funding to finish the road and no money to connect it from Evansville across the Ohio River to Kentucky.
There's a lot of people around the country who also have their own projects that they want to get federal funding for. And so if you don't have a grassroots effort to really show why this is so important to your region, then you'll get nowhere.
What funding options are on the table? The state eliminated its energy efficiency program despite the success it was having. Some are arguing the process of creating a new program is flawed.
Energy efficiency really is not in the interest of investor-owned utility companies who make a lot of money selling electricity.
What's being considered, and will it promote energy efficiency? Plus the latest news headlines right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Hello, I'm Joe Wren, and welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. The story of I-69 is still being written. The interstate exists in two disconnected portions in Indiana. 67 miles of the road from Evansville to Crane opened in 2012. The other portion of the road, which is not new, starts north of Indianapolis and extends to the Michigan border. As crews continue to work in Indiana, many questions remain. Where will funding to finish the road come from? Will it achieve its full economic potential? How will it bridge state lines to create a trade corridor across the middle of America? Sarah Whitmire reports on the challenges that lie ahead.
Representatives from all the states along the I-69 corridor convened in Bloomington this week for the I-69 Regional Summit. How to fund the road and create opportunities for economic growth remain the biggest questions.
We are only going to realize a small portion of the potential of this infrastructure development unless and until the corridor is complete, okay? And with the demise of major funding for interstate highways at the federal level, it depends more and more on states acting on their own.
David Reed, who is a former economist with the Hudson Institute, worked with early visionaries in the 1980s to develop plans for a mid-continent highway that would connect Canada to Mexico through the Midwest.
It's clear that places like Texas and Mississippi are serious about it. It's not so clear that other states along the corridor are equally serious. And I think that it's important that those of us who really believe in the potential of this road be more aggressive in terms of reaching out to those states, those communities along the road, and helping them understand the potential that it has for their long-term growth and development.
The first 67 miles of I-69 in southern Indiana opened in 2012. It starts in Evansville and ends at Crane. There's little traffic on the road and no development. Joe Wellman is the mayor of Washington, Indiana. He says a lot of things are happening behind the scenes, such as infrastructure upgrades and zoning changes. The major US 50 I-69 interchange sits in Washington's city limits. Wellman says soon it will be better than shovel-ready.
We're getting a lot of inquiries. I think a lot of business is waiting to see how the road structure, once our new road is constructed, and get the road open here to Bloomington, because business decides a lot based on traffic counts. Traffic has been increasing. I think once we get it open to Bloomington, we'll have a lot more traffic between Bloomington and Evansville for sure. And I think that will cause some businesses to sign on the dotted line, if you will, and start to do something.
5 of the 6 sections of I-69 in Indiana have funding or a financing plan in place. Money for sections 1 through 3 came from the lease of Indiana's toll road. That allocation is now all gone. The gas tax was primarily used to fund Section 4 from Crane to Bloomington. Section 5 from Bloomington to Martinsville is funded through a public-private partnership. The state hired the company Isolux to construct and operate that section of the interstate.
So they're putting up the upfront money to build it, and then we will pay them an amount of money every year for the maintenance and repayment, if you will, of the original funding.
Funding for Section 6 from Martinsville to Indianapolis remains a major question mark until INDOT decides what route the road will take. It could continue north up 37, go west, or east. The only stipulation is that it has to connect to Interstate 465.
Until we make those decisions, you don't really know what kind of a road you have, and therefore the idea of how you're going to fund it is a little tough to come by. But it's the possibilities are everything that's a possibility on any road today. You can borrow money, you can do the public-private partnership idea. A legislature could decide to fund it, the Congress could decide to fund it.
There's also no money to fund the bridge necessary to connect Evansville to Kentucky. A span across the Ohio River was estimated at $1.2 billion in 2013.
The states are looking at where the funding is going to come from their standpoint. I'm on the Transportation Committee in Washington. I'm looking at federal options to help us fund the bridge. Right now, there's no earmarks, so I can't earmark the money for the bridge. But I think there is opportunity because of it's such a significant project that the federal government will be able to help fund it.
This just does not affect people along the interstate of I-69. This is the whole state, and we are all interested in this. The Midwest is interested in this, and frankly, North America is interested in this because this will keep us competitive with the rest of the world. And in a 21st century, when we're competing with people and places whose names we can barely pronounce, this road is going to help level the playing field.
In the meantime, Mayor Wellman says work in Washington will continue. The road is about a year behind schedule now, mostly due to issues with the train in Section 4 near Bloomington. But Wellman wants his community to be poised for development when the opportunity comes.
We have seen a real impetus in our community to work together to make things happen.
That grassroots effort in Washington is what got the road started. And ironically, the economist David Reed laughs, it's the same kind of effort that'll be necessary to finish it.
Grassroots is really key to this because the money is not likely to come from the federal level, at least as generously as it used to.
Talking about grassroots efforts, you might remember the name David Graham. In our I-69 documentary produced in 2011, Graham talked about how he drove up and down the corridor decades ago, meeting with politicians and community leaders, trying to get their support for an idea he had to build a free trade highway. He was the leader of the I-69 grassroots effort. He was honored this week in Washington at a bridge dedication. A memorial sign which bears his name is being posted on the I-69 southbound bridge overpass in Washington. The northbound bridge is being dedicated to Jim Newland, the first director of the I-69 coalition. Combined, the men spent more than half a century working to make I-69 a reality. Graham also attended this week's summit and challenged those in attendance to finish the free trade highway. Sarah Whitmire joins us now to tell us more about the efforts to complete the highway. And Sarah, I feel like when I hear the word innovative being used all the time with I-69 trying to fund this highway, is it going to happen?
That's what everyone at this week's summit, the word they were using, innovative. It's because we used to be able to rely on the gas tax to fund these major infrastructure projects. And as we know, the money from the gas tax is just continuing to decline because cars are more fuel efficient. And more importantly, perhaps the gas tax has not been raised in decades. And finding someone who is willing to champion a bill to raise a tax, the chances of that are slim.
And you talked with Congressman Larry Bouchon, who 69 runs through his district, and Rokita.
It doesn't run through his district, interestingly enough.
But what about just kind of, we heard him talking in the story, but were you able to get a little bit more out of him in terms of, is DC really going to help fund this?
It's interesting because they say it absolutely is a priority in Washington, D.C., but what they did tell me is that until people in Congress are willing to sit down and look at the entire pie of federal spending, no, it's not going to happen. They said you've got to look at entitlements. You know, currently there's not a long-term highway funding bill in place. Last year they passed an extension. So they're saying we've got to look at all these other different options that could potentially replace the gas tax. And Rokita told me, you know, that's not that hard. It's just getting people to agree to sit down and do it.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Thanks. And now for headlines, we go over to Alex Dirkman, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thank you, Joe. Beginning February 7th, residents that live in the current 812 area code must begin using 10-digit dialing. The state is implementing a new area code, 930, in the area because 812 numbers are running out. The 10-digit dialing was supposed to start last month, but communications companies serving the medical and law enforcement sectors raised some concerns about the plan. A spokesman from the Office of the Utility Consumer Counselor says those concerns have been addressed. The U.S. Department of Education this week extended a deadline to apply for an $80 million pre-K grant, and that sparked some debate here in Indiana. Governor Mike Pence had earlier stopped Indiana's application for the funds, saying he did not want federal intrusion in the state's pre-K efforts. When the deadline was extended, Democrats, including Superintendent Glenda Ritz, immediately took to social media asking Pence to let Indiana apply for the grant. But it didn't take long for Governor Pence to respond. In his own tweets, Pence said he stands by his decision and emphasized that federal funding does not ensure success. He wrote the decision is about Indiana's children, not money, and the state has an obligation to get it right. Indiana is implementing a pre-K pilot program that will be available in 5 counties next year. More charges are expected against the man police say killed a prostitute in Gary. After police arrested Darren Van for the alleged murder, they say he led them to the bodies of 6 other women. Authorities in 2 states are reviewing case files and missing persons reports to determine if there could be more victims. State and federal leaders are emphasizing the need to standardize laws relating to sexual assault. Sexual assault prevention advocates, elected officials, and representatives from 21 of Indiana's colleges and universities gathered in Indianapolis this week to discuss ways to reduce sexual assault on college campuses. They emphasize the need to make sure state and federal laws complement each other.
Getting that standardization, aligning where we need to in terms of policy is really important so that everybody is treated fairly and everybody has a chance at the best possible outcome through the criminal justice system.
All the college administrators who were here today said it would be helpful if there was some commonality around terms, some commonality around some of the procedures, some commonality around the climate survey that's going to be done of students, and it was also suggested that faculty and staff do those surveys as well. And so I think we need to elevate the importance of this topic on our college campuses, but not just on our college campuses, kind of in society in general.
Political leaders say they plan to consider new legislation regarding sexual assault, both in the Indiana General Assembly and in Congress next year. Beginning this spring, 65,000 Hoosiers receiving food stamps will have to start taking job training or lose their benefits. Indiana and dozens of other states received a waiver from the federal requirement after the financial crisis in 2008. But Indiana officials announced this week they plan to reinstate the mandate. That means able-bodied adults without children who are unemployed and not training for work will receive benefits for no more than 3 months over a 3-year period. As winter approaches, hog farmers are looking for ways to protect their herds against a fatal virus that thrives in cold weather.
With the virus and just how it's spreading around, and I think
about 80 farmers and animal health experts attended a Purdue University conference looking for advice on how to combat porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, or PEDV. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently approved 2 vaccines for PEDV. But veterinarian Darren Miller warns that they've had limited success, especially in herds that have never been exposed to the disease.
I think it's important for producers to realize that, you know, it's an additional tool. You can't use it as a crutch. So you really have to continue your disinfection protocols, keeping that environmental level of that virus down to prevent exposure to those baby pigs.
We'll just keep doing the best we can and cross our fingers. I mean, you know, there's only so much you can do, and even some of the most biosecure farms this past year were infected.
PEDV has been found in dozens of hog farms in Indiana and has killed an estimated 8 million pigs since last year, causing a spike in pork prices. The University of Notre Dame is holding a 2-day conference beginning next week to explore how churches can coexist comfortably with gay Catholics. The conference features speakers discussing more inclusive pastoral strategies for Catholic members of the LGBT community. The announcement comes a few days after a synod of Catholic bishops met at the Vatican and were unable to agree on whether they should welcome gays into the church. After almost 14 years, Kokomo is getting curbside recycling again. As Joe Wren reports, the city's mayor says the service shouldn't cost residents anything.
Like other Kokomo residents, Katie Bowers and her family don't have to pay for trash pickup, but they do have to drop off their recycling at one of the city's 9 recycling stations.
It doesn't seem like a big deal to just bring it here, but it quickly piles up, and then you forget to bring it, and you end up with these huge mounds at your house, and then you start just throwing things away.
That will change as the city rolls out curbside recycling to about a third of its residents next month, and then the entire city by summer. Mayor Greg Goodnight says this was something he wanted to do when he first took office in 2008.
We have a business here in town that has invested in a wet MRF, so the recycled materials will stay here in the community and be sorted there. And that was really what was always the glitch, that the transportation costs were always the biggest hurdle.
He says there are still no plans to charge for trash unless the recycling costs become too much of a burden, and the city has to find a way to offset the expense.
A U.S. House committee is looking into an Indiana University study that some media outlets say is an attempt to limit free speech on social media. But Indiana University officials say those reports are a gross mischaracterization of the study's goals. The project takes tweets or posts on social media sites and runs them through algorithms to look for trends about how information and ideas are spread and transformed as they are shared across online networks.
I could see how some of that information is political. A good part of the public discussion on Twitter is political in nature, but just the fact that that data parses through our algorithms just the same as any other data does not necessarily make the analysis that we perform, the scientific analysis that we make, a free speech issue.
In a statement released Tuesday, the chairman of the U.S. House Committee on Science, Space and Technology said the government has no business using taxpayer dollars to support limiting free speech on Twitter and other social media. He goes on to say the National Science Foundation is out of touch and out of control, and it must be held accountable for its funding decisions. The Jackrabbits, that's the name of Kokomo's new Prospect League baseball team. The name is a reference to this car called Apperson Jackrabbit. It was made by a Kokomo-based auto manufacturer in the early 1900s. The team's stadium, which is located near the former automotive company, is scheduled to be complete April 1st, and the Jackrabbit season will start shortly after. And Joe, the team, it also has a new manager, Greg Van Horn, and he says he's not easing into the season. He's ready to take a championship.
Well, I'm talking with the mayor. They're really excited about the local high school teams being able to play there too in the spring, so that'll be fun. Thanks, Alex.
Yes.
Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. Indiana eliminates its energy efficiency program. What utility companies and environmental groups say should serve as a replacement. And a sneaker company is creating custom shoes for a local high school. We'll tell you why right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
Turn to PBS for stories that define the American experience.
All of this stuff was just erupting.
Revealing our strengths.
You create a new future.
Our struggles.
It's very American to say, this is not right.
These are our stories.
We were so innocent, and oddly enough, we were so American.
Our American experience.
Tuesday evening at 9.
The fact that PBS is the most trusted media outlet in the country means a great deal to me. We live now in the most multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic America ever. There are a lot of voices in this country that need to be heard. I think that my job is to help Americans re-examine the assumptions that they hold, to expand their inventory of ideas, and hopefully to introduce Americans to each other. And we take that challenge seriously every day.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Indiana's energy efficiency program called Energizing Indiana is being eliminated at the end of the year. Included in that program was a goal of reducing statewide energy consumption by 2% each year. The program was doing well. A recent report showed on average it saved $3 for every $1 spent. In some cases, it saved up to $5. But the cost of the program was also expected to more than double over the next 5 years. So, as Gretchen Frazee reports, lawmakers nixed it and are now looking into alternative programs.
Switching to the compact fluorescents, they're going to save you 75%.
Energy auditor Mike Bass is inspecting Dawn Andrews' Columbus home. He's spelling out some simple ways she can reduce her energy consumption. Turn the thermostat down in the winter when you're not home, for example, or replace incandescent light bulbs with fluorescents.
We're not going to come out and tell you to replace windows or to replace your heating and air system. We're going to look for those ways that are going to be a low cost, no cost, and it can make a pretty significant difference just on doing those items.
On average, the savings is about $100 per year. The audits are part of Energizing Indiana, which is going away at the end of the year. Senator Jim Merritt authored a bill that essentially eliminated the program. He says meeting the annual 2% energy savings goal was getting more difficult and more expensive.
I found that it was an inexpensive program to start when it was changing light bulbs and it's wrapping pipes and simple measures such as that to save energy. But when you look at the second 4 years, 2015 through 2019, those simple measures are just not there.
I'm going to get a little technical here, so stick with me, because like a lot of things, this really comes down to cost. If you take a look at your electricity bill, this one's mine, you can probably see your previous month's balance, the state taxes you owe, and your current month's electricity costs. Within that number are built in a lot of little fees that you can't see. One of those is for energy efficiency programs. Under Energizing Indiana, utility companies say those costs were expected to go up for both residential and commercial customers, especially for large industrial manufacturers that use a lot of energy.
You want to take a look and
even without Energizing Indiana, utility companies say they plan to continue many of the energy efficiency programs like home and business energy audits, just without state involvement. Mark Mazel represents Indiana's 5 largest investor-owned utilities. He says cutting out the middleman will reduce the cost of the programs and, in turn, keep utility bill fees lower.
If you look at the way that utilities plan to meet the needs of their customers in the future, and you look at how best to do that, this becomes the cost-effective technique in a number of different cases.
But those arguments aren't good enough for a lot of Hoosiers. At a recent rally on the State House steps, about 75 Hoosiers gathered to show their support for reinstating an energy efficiency mandate and making renewable energy a part of the solution.
In all honesty, it's much more affordable to invest in insulation than it is to invest in solar power. But really, it's a 1-2 punch. First, become very efficient with the energy that you use, and then second, power the remainder of the energy that you use with green renewable sources.
The scales are fully tilted in favor of the utility company in terms of what the law allows them to do.
Consumer advocates like Kerwin Olson say right now, the lack of a statewide mandate largely puts utility companies in the driver's seat. He points out that the proposals the utility companies recently submitted to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission allocate a lot less money for energy efficiency programs than before.
The voluntary savings goals that utilities have self-imposed on themselves, they're going to achieve about half of the energy savings that would have been achieved under the commission mandate.
But utility companies don't have the final say. That's left up to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission and state lawmakers who are gearing up to decide what Indiana's energy policy should look like. Massel says he expects the decision will continue past the next legislative session.
There are individuals that believe that cost effectiveness is not a criteria. I disagree with that personally. I believe our industry disagrees with it. And so as long as we have that fundamental question of is this something that we want to say serves customers but in a way that's in their best interest? It's cost effective for them to do it. As long as that issue remains, I think there will always be this discussion about is there enough energy efficiency or is there not.
Governor Mike Pence is reviewing the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission's recommendations for energy efficiency programs and plans to work with legislators to establish a new energy plan next year. The governor has repeatedly said he advocates for an all-of-the-above strategy when it comes to Indiana's energy policy, and he recently specified that that includes energy efficiency. An iconic shoe is getting a custom design for a local city. Converse Chuck Taylor's may be one of the most recognized shoe brands in the nation. The man behind the design, Chuck Taylor, was from Columbus, Indiana. Now, a limited edition style of the basketball shoe will feature logos and colors of the city's 2 high schools. Indiana University senior Connor Ritt designed the shoe. He's a marketing major but found a creative outlet in fashion design and thinks this shoe is a perfect fit for Indiana's basketball history.
You know, it's Indiana. It's basketball. Everybody plays basketball, you know, and everywhere you look there's a basketball court. So I feel like Chuck Taylor being from Indiana only adds to that. You know, it just adds to the basketball tradition that Indiana already has.
And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news in southern Indiana throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by the following. Indiana University's Center for Applied Cybersecurity Research, presenting Security Matters with tips for improving online security in 3 minutes or less. Main Source Bank, headquartered in Greensburg, Indiana, offering products and services to fit every stage of life. More information at mainsourcebank.com. Main Source, life needs a great bank. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Smithville Communications, serving southern Indiana with high-speed fiber gigabit internet. Smithville Fiber Gigabit Technology. Tap the power.
And by WTIU members. Thank you.